In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast. I am Amit. That is KDot. KDot, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing pretty well. I was thinking about on the other podcast, I usually sing a song at the intro. What is our fight? Do we have a fight song yet? Is it Hail to the Commanders after they did the Hail to the
It might be. So from what I've seen, they're still working on it. I don't think there's anything official just yet. But I get the feeling it's veering that way, especially when we were talking after the pod. We just sort of jokingly voted for HTTC, and here we are. So it's a step away, right?
It works, right? Hail to the Commanders. Like
You gotta say it quick. You gotta say
like,
Commanders quick.
Hail Victor. Yeah, you can work. You can figure it out.
Yeah, all right. Well, it's good to hear you're doing well. And once again, this is a Washington Commanders based episode. I know the Wizards got pick 10, stuff like that. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. We don't know enough about these draft prospects yet to be able to say anything. So once we get closer to that time, we will.
And not to mention, we're going to trade that pick and Beal for Harden. So let's sign a trade.
I don't want to talk about this stuff right now. We will get to it though. But we're going to begin talking about Jahan Dotson, who just signed a 4-year deal officially with the team. So our first round pick of this year. So we're going to talk about him, our expectations of him. We can guess as to what his expectations of himself are. We're then going to talk about the wide receiver corps as a whole. You know, we're going to talk about Terry McLaurin. We're going to talk about Curtis Samuel, Cam Sims, Antonio Gandy-Golden's a name. He is rumored, according to John Keim, to be converting to tight end. So we're going to talk about expectations for Antonio Gandy-Golden this coming season, who we drafted just a couple years ago. And then we're going to conclude with the comment mailbag, where we answer your questions from last week. And that'll wrap up the episode. So, KDot, why don't we get into it? Jahan Dotson. So once again, as a reminder for folks, we had pick 11 in this year's NFL draft. We traded back a few spots. We end up taking Penn State wide receiver Jahan Dotson. So he just signed a 4-year, $15 million deal, officially 15.05 if you want to be nerdy about it, but that's what he signed. And again, a first round wide receiver where we have seen really, really quick and solid production from players. I mean, you talk about Jalen Waddle, you talk about Jamar Chase, you talk about Justin Jefferson. I mean, if Jerry Jeudy had a half decent quarterback for a bit, he had over 100 targets his rookie year. So like, these players are expected to perform and produce immediately. But KDot, what would you say the expectations are for Jahan Dotson, who was not the first, second, third, or even fourth wide receiver taken off the board here?
It's weird. So like while I agree to a certain degree, and we've talked about it, whether it be the draft pods or anything, that the wide receiver position is one in which you're getting a return on your investment extremely quickly nowadays in the NFL. But I think that has a lot to do with the style of the way the game is played, the systems that the colleges are the systems that the colleges are using. And if you go all the way down to Pee Wee football nowadays, like that wide receiver position, you're just seeing every type of athlete really kind of in that mold as far as receiver, right? You look at Jahan Dotson, 5'11", 182, Cam Sims, 6'5", 220, anything can really be in this. And it's just like it becomes kind of like that safety position where that used to be like the freak position, safety or tight end. Just throw your freak in that. The wide receiver position right now at this point, because of the way the defenders can't really touch these guys, is just shooting through the goddamn roof. It's becoming basically the running back position of this decade, right? I don't know necessarily how much pressure there is on Dotson overall, right? So like I get it. A lot of these dudes have been drafted early and they're going out and they're producing like crazy. Terry, second round draft pick, produced like crazy. Third round draft pick, produces like crazy. I think for Dotson, the idea would be that he should be somebody that we're looking at that says, all right, he's a quality starter in the NFL. I think would be the benchmark that you're looking at as far as in that position right now. And I just think that it kind of depends on how our wide receiver room kind of shakes out, because we've got a lot of names and some of these guys have not really even seen the field all that much recently. Like we'll talk about more about all the wide receivers, but it's just got to be how it is that they kind of line up. I don't know exactly what the offense is going to look like and where Jahan's going to be or what the expectations are going to be for Jahan within the offense itself. So I don't quite know. I mean, I would say that like if he's shooting north of 500-600 yards and touchdowns past 5, I'm happy with that as far as a rookie, right? I'm extremely happy with that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think if he doesn't hit 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns, like anybody can look at him and say he's a disappointment.
Yeah, and so I wanted to actually run through some numbers with you. So just last year's rookies. Okay, so I'm just going to name some wide receivers. So Jalen Waddle. And actually I'm going to name it by games played. So if they had played at least 16 games and they were a wide receiver, I'm just going to name a few and what they ended up doing. So Jalen Waddle played 16 games. He had 104 catches for the Miami Dolphins. You had Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had a phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal rookie season with 90 catches, 17 games played. Jamar Chase, 81 catches, 17 games played. Skipping down to Devontae Smith, 17 games played, 64 catches. So you're getting to this point where, hey, if you're playing a full season, just about, you could see around 60 balls come your way, or that's just, I'm sorry, 60 catches. 60 balls would be just targets. So we can expect a decent number of targets for Jahan, but that's where it lends itself to the wide receiving room, right? Because you have a Terry McLaurin already established as your alpha, your clear number one. You have Curtis Samuel coming back from injury. You have Antonio Gibson out of the backfield. And if you look at the way that Scott Turner has used the offense so far, and it could change with Carson Wentz, but it's been 3 names. It's been Terry McLaurin, it's been JD McKissic, a running back, and it's been Logan Thomas, a tight end. So I am very curious to see what happens with Jahan. I would personally be happy with anywhere between 50 to 60 catches and about 5 touchdowns. I would be totally thrilled with that. But that's just me. That's just me. How does that sound to you? That
sounds amazing. But that's the thing is like when I'm looking at this team and looking at all these guys that can catch a football, there's been so many targets or catches that can exist, right? Unless we're dropping back every fucking down and throwing the ball. And I'd rather us be a little more balanced than that, especially with the Brian Robinson pick. Yeah, I think it's just gonna be hard to see. Like, if we can look around that, I'd say 40 to 60 range as far as catches, I think that's a successful outing for Dotson. That means he got involved in the offense. Hopefully, from what I see with Dotson, he's our home run threat. So maybe what I'm looking at is just maybe percentage of catches compared to touchdowns, or how many balls past 20 yards did he catch? Like, what is his dynamic within the offense? Because, like, you name those names, you add J.D. McKissic to it, who last time that he had damn near a full season was the 80 catches. There's a lot of guys that can get the ball. I don't know exactly how it is that they're going to line up or shake out, because Curtis Samuel's another dude that you'd want to feed the rock to, right? Look, there's also the matter of, like, if you got a McKissic and you got and you have a Samuel who can't necessarily stay healthy, maybe their targets go down, and that's where Dotson needs to feed up. So I don't know.
Yeah. So, and I'm looking up the JD McKissic figure right now, because I'm also curious about that. But I just wanted to say, so the reason, so you hear 50 to 60 catches, you hear 40 to 60 catches, like KDot had just mentioned. I want people to realize what that means, right? So if someone plays a whole season, that is anywhere between 2.5 catches a game to 4 catches a game, right? Around that. Actually, it's a little less than 4 catches a game. So just because you see Jahan get 3 catches in a game, that doesn't mean, oh my gosh, he was a first round pick, like he should be doing a whole lot more. Like, no. You know, it is his rookie year. Terry McLaurin, who we all love, right? Absolutely love. 58 catches his rookie year. Okay. And then he explodes after that, right? So it's important to temper those expectations for a wide receiver's rookie year. He is probably not a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. Those LSU kids are just freaks and are different. But he is still going to be quite productive, in my opinion, in this league. And I expect a perfectly suitable, again, 50 to 60 catches from Jahan this coming season. Kida, did you want to say anything else before we move on to the wide receiving room?
Yeah. So I'm looking up, who would you say had the most impressive wide receiver room last year? in the NFL?
Ooh, that is a good question. Let's see. I mean, I feel like just Tyreek Hill on his own is so good. I love Cincinnati's. Honestly,
Cincinnati's
really
who I'm
like
going
Cincinnati's.
with. Cincinnati's who I'm actually going with. So I'm looking at their targets compared to receptions and yards or whatever last year, and I'm comparing to us. So like I said, 40 to 60 as far as our guy Dotson.
Jahan, yeah.
Adam Humphries had 40 catches last year, 383 yards. If Jahan put up those stats with no touchdowns, I'm not happy, right? So like there's that. But if I'm looking at from a target standpoint, so like with Washington, you see 130 targets to Terry McLaurin last year, 77 receptions. The next highest as far as targets went was Adam Humphrey at 62, then Ricky Seals-Jones at 49. Yeah, you got McKissick had 42, Gibson had 40 something. But then I look at Cincinnati. Jamar Chase, 128, 81 receptions. Tyler Boyd, 94 targets, 67 receptions. T. Higgins, 110 targets, 74. So, yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to, seeing the numbers actually where it is, let's say 60 touches for Dotson.
Okay.
I'm going to say touches. Because I think that they're going to move a lot of guys around and they're going to do whatever.
Punt return. They have a couple carries.
So I'm saying like around that 60 mark, and that to me would speak to they're getting Samuel involved, they're getting McKissick involved, because I'm looking at all the guys that they have and how it is they're going to keep that nice balance. Maybe make sure the Dotson putting his best foot forward. So let's say 60. I'm going to give it with you. Let's say 60.
Okay. Let's say 60. And let's actually, you mentioning Adam Humphries is a very good transition into talking about the wide receivers that we have here in Washington. So let's go ahead and talk about the receiving corp that we have over here. Highlighted and headlined and all of the above for Terry McLaurin, who we are still working on a deal for. I am confident it's going to get done. That'll probably happen. I'm thinking in late July. That's what you and I had both said, KDot. Is that correct? You're thinking late July?
Yeah, I would say somewhere around July, probably late July.
Yeah, probably around late July. So Terry's going to get most of the targets, and I think Carson Wentz is going to absolutely love this guy. Where it gets interesting, right, is we had signed Curtis Samuel last season to a 3-year. It was either $30 million or $34 million deal. I think it was 34 and a half officially. And people were thinking, okay, Curtis is going to play on the outside or the slot, probably slot. Well, then we signed Adam Humphries, right, to play a true slot wide receiver. Mm-hmm. In this case, I actually think that drafting Jahan does not mean, just because of his size, does not mean that he's going to play the slot. I actually think Jahan ends up playing opposite Terry on the outside. Curtis comes into the slot where he seemed to be incredibly effective for Carolina. And I think when you put those things together, assuming health, and you always have to, say that, but assuming health, this is a very dangerous wide receiving group. What do you think, KDot?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm with you on Dotson goes to the outside. Samuel becomes your Swiss Army knife between the two wideouts, right? Put him anywhere. Put him in the backfield, have him in motion. You're probably going to see some reverses, things like that. Curtis Samuel gives you that flexibility as far as that, if he can stay healthy, because he's a physical guy. He's a physical receiver. You could have him do a whole lot in between where it is you have the two receivers going. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. Just the versatility of the offense, and especially the wide receivers, and the ability of all these guys are guys that we've kind of at least been sort of excited about. Because I mean, I'm looking through this entire list of wide receivers. A couple of these guys you never fucking heard of, doesn't really matter, right? But in order, De'Ami Brown, home run threat. We didn't necessarily get to see it all that much, but everybody was teeing off on Terry. De'Ami really didn't get his opportunity to really get those targets and get those looks the way he wanted to. And you had a guy in Taylor Heineke who couldn't throw the ball past 30 yards. So not really going to get it, right? De'Ami Brown, Jahan Dotson, we talked about it. Alex Erickson, Jaquez Ezzard, Antonio Gandy-Golden converting to tight end possibly. Kelvin Harmon, dude that we all really liked, can't see the field, save his life, right? But hopefully he's healthy and he actually is able to be out there and actually get something done. be on the field at all just to see what we have with him, right? Because in those small moments, Kelvin Harmon has been that guy that from training camps, practices, everything, everybody says the same thing. The dude can play. He's just got to be able to get on the field and fucking do so, right? We got Terry, Mark and Mitchell, Dax Milne, who I kind of liked in certain stretches last year, is the scrappy young guy that just does whatever. White. Curtis Samuel, and a Cam Sims. That to me is a really, really cool group of receivers, right? Like you have the guys that have usually had to get more playing time than they need to because of injuries that are above them. We could have them kind of settle back into their roles as far as, hey, give me one play here, 2 plays here. You don't need to be the go-to guy, right? Cam Sims, one of those guys. Like, hey, we put you out there every once in a while. What can you do for us? Curtis Samuel, Swiss Army knife. Terry McLaurin has the ability to be a Swiss Army knife. He just hasn't been able to be because of what we've needed for him in the offense and having everybody tee off on him. He's kind of have to be our go guy, right? But the idea that you can have Terry running more slants or even having Terry kind of move around. I'm just looking at the 3 guys that are probably the leaders of that receiving group, Dotson, Samuel, and Terry. While we would think that they'd be on the outside and Samuel will be on the inside and those 2 guys will be on the outside, you could really line them up anywhere. And I think you'd get production from them.
Yeah, and that was exactly the point I wanted to make, is that we're speaking to Curtis Samuel's versatility. Well, Jahan can do the exact same thing. Terry has done the exact same thing. So when you look at how versatile the group is, which also means you're not just where you line up. Anyone can line up anywhere, but like what they're capable of doing in those positions when they line up. They can go in the short, they can go intermediate, they can go deep if they need to. All of them can do it. And then so those are just 3 guys, and you still have a JD McKissick out of the backfield. You still have a Logan Thomas when healthy, right? We drafted Cole Turner. He seems a lot more like this sort of that freak position. You know, he can almost play like a wide out, you know?
Bates did good stretches last year.
Bates did good in stretches last year. So now we've already named 6 people. And I have a personal preference towards Cam Sims. I really like Cam Sims. So now we've named 7 people, right, that we feel good about as receiving options. And so that is where we're coming from when we talk about how deadly this receiving group can really, really be, especially because, and I know that, you know, when the trade happened, people were flipping out and stuff like that. But as it settles, right, Carson, and as Jim Irsay talks more and more and more and more, Carson Wentz coming here, he's probably the best QB we've had since Kirk Cousins. He has very similar numbers to Kirk Cousins, except he's bigger, stronger arm. So, and he knows the division. So there's a lot to really like. I can see us flying under the radar, and we also have an easier schedule. See, this is what happens. This is why we have a podcast. We get excited. This is what's going on. KDot, are we going undefeated?
No. Come on.
Thank you. I needed that.
It's just dumb. Look, last time that I spoke, I know that I got kind of lost in the weeds. I was just rambling at one point, but all home run hitters too. These guys are burners. Like if it was the NFL 5-6 years ago, we'd say, Jesus Christ, has there ever been a faster receiving core? Nowadays it's just like, I guess, as everybody runs a fucking sub 4.4, 4.3. It ain't no biggie, but these motherfuckers are burners. And you got a quarterback that can do what? Launch that goddamn football down the field. And guess what? Also with that quarterback, do you know what the Indianapolis Colts offensive line was ranked passing wise last year?
Tell us.
30th.
And us?
Top 10 for both categories.
Top 5.
We're top 5 passing. Yeah, because we were 6 overall, right? Like that's and the only reason Indianapolis was ranked at all because of that running back and Jonathan Taylor, who could just do anything, right? You're telling me you can give Carson Wentz some time? You give him time? You got dudes that can burn right past everybody? Like, I ain't trying to drink burgundy and gold Kool-Aid, but it's there.
It is absolutely there. And so and this is a serious question. So of course the undefeated, no, we're not going undefeated, but what I wanted to ask you was, do you feel that the offense, And hey, let's also keep in mind, so Jahan's a rookie. This is going to be Carson Wentz's first year in a new system. This is Scott Turner's probably first time being able to do everything he wants to be able to do as an offensive coordinator. That being said, do you think, all that in mind, that we have the necessary tools on offense to be able to keep up with anybody in the league? I mean, you think about Kansas City, you think about Cincinnati, you think about Buffalo, these high-powered offenses that just keep coming at you, right? Mm-hmm. Could we keep up with them from an offensive standpoint, or are we still a tier or two below?
Yeah, I'm not making excuses anymore. So, like, I think the personnel is here. And look, this is the team that they wanted. Yeah. This isn't like they just threw it together or we're settling on this. Like, when you look at the Adam Humphrey signing last year, a lot of that I thought had to do with the fact that Curtis Samuel didn't look like he was 100%. You see what I'm saying? So it was like, all right, well, we got to kind of fill these bodies that we don't really love what the wide receiver room is looking like. This are all guys that pretty much handpicked. They're all handpicked. Nobody forced anybody's hand to go get fucking Dotson that early in the draft when there were so many other things available, right? Terry's 100%. Our guy. We all know he's talented, right? No excuses there. Curtis Samuel, you guys signed him to that contract last year. So, I mean, other than outside of injury, this is an offense that you guys hand selected, you love, and you spent all the money to get Carson. There's no excuses.
No excuses. Zero excuses. And I just wanted to also say, so while we were doing a little bit of show prep for, Jahan Dotson, and I was looking at rookie numbers and, who did well their rookie years as a wide receiver. Terry McLaurin is just something different, man. And it's also, it is criminal that he has not made a Pro Bowl yet. And I think people are going to find out just how good he is now that he's playing with the guy that can stretch the field and could throw it accurately downfield as well.
There's pressure on Terry too.
There is, but Terry, does anyone doubt that he can get this done?
No, I don't doubt it at all. But that's the thing, is like, I just need to see everything come together. This is where I'm going to look at Scott Turner and I'm like, you just got that extension this offseason, sir. Prove it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it makes all the sense in the world. I think the optimism is justified. Again, we did mention some potential issues. Again, this is going to be Carson adjusting to a new system. His third team in 3 years. That's also true.
Yeah, adjusting to a new thing. Curtis Samuel hasn't had enough time with the field.
Right. There are plenty of things.
A rookie. Blah, 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 blah. No excuses.
Well, I mean, because he got the extension, I think he's also going to be pretty safe. Why don't we talk about one of those guys that we had mentioned, Antonio Gandy-Golden? So according to John Keim on his podcast, he had mentioned that Antonio Gandy-Golden is going to be converting to tight end. KDot, we have talked about tight ends quite extensively, actually, now that I think about it on this podcast. We know what Logan Thomas can do, but we also know he's injured. John Bates had a pretty solid rookie campaign last season in relief for Logan Thomas. We've talked about, we are a Samis Reyes podcast. We just drafted Cole Turner. There's Curtis Hodges. Like, there are a lot of tight ends. And now Antonio Gandy-Golden, who probably, I can't think of how many times he's blocked a defensive end, in his life. And he's going to have to learn to do that. What are your thoughts on this move? Is this danger territory for Antonio Gandy-Golden, or is this a sign that, hey, the coaching staff loves him so much that they want him around and they think he can be a really good tight end? What are your thoughts here?
Antonio, first off, I'm gonna speak to you. I'm gonna speak to you, Antonio. Me and you talked to each other on your Instagram live a few weeks ago. Said I wanted you to come on the fucking podcast. I haven't heard from you since. This is going to be on YouTube. It's going to have your name. Not a lot of videos with your name on it. So you might watch this one. Just going to put that out there. We still want you on the fucking pod, Antonio.
100%.
This is danger territory for you though, sir. There's no reason to sugarcoat it. You're 6'4", 223 is what they got to listen at, 220, 223. Which should put him already on the smaller side as far as any tight end that we have there in the group. He would probably be faster than any of the tight ends we have in that group too. It gives us flexibility, but it also puts the pressure on you to learn this position and to learn it to your best. Like, maybe you need to put on some more weight. I don't know. The thing that I always went back to, Antonio, Gandy-Golden on was how intelligent a person he is. You hear all the stories out of Liberty University. We know you can fucking solve your Rubik's Cube in 10 seconds or whatever the fuck it is you do. Like we know that you're supposed to be the guy that really is able to learn that playbook more than other people might be able to. I would think that if anybody's prepared mentally for a change, it would be him more than maybe anybody. So I have faith in it, but this is usually one of those things that happen right before that career starts to drain. And I get it. Like, if I'm looking at Antonio Gandy-Golden since we've had him here, because this is his third year, haven't been a lot to show on the field, man. And that receiving group is only getting harder to break through. Because
Absolutely.
I mean, if I look on that list, who am I putting him over?
No, it's based on production. It's hard to put him over
anybody.
There were a couple names. I think you said like Alex Erickson,
We're not
and stuff like
counting
that.
them.
But like, if you're not counting them, then yeah, it's hard to put him over. I'm not putting him over Cam Sims. Certainly not putting him over the front three that we had just discussed. So maybe that puts him at 5.
Put him over Dex Milne?
Probably not. And it's also a guy that, I don't know. It's very, very difficult. And also just moving to tight end. First off, it is an opportunity, right? First and foremost, it is a huge opportunity, because if he can make this his own with the speed he has at a tight end position, good Lord, like who knows? Could be great. But here's the thing. They drafted Cole Turner. You rarely see draft picks get cut like that, unless it was like maybe a 7th rounder, maybe. But they like to give those rookies time. So assume he makes the team, right? Just off the bat, he makes the team. Then Logan Thomas makes the team. They like John Bates. That's already 3. They saved an entire roster spot for Samis Reyes to learn exactly what Antonio Golden is about to do right now in just one summer. Right? They give Samis Reyes an entire year, and that dude is built like an ox. So at the very least, he can block. This is a very tall task for Gandy-Golden. It is a very, very tall task. That being said, I want everyone to push each other to be their best, because I want the best for this team. I hope if he succeeds, that could be a really, really good sign, right? Hey, he beat out all those guys. Like, then all of a sudden you're like, man, what is the ceiling for this kid? So I'm curious to see what happens, but I'm also like, if I'm just seeing the other facts, it's also danger territory, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be.
But I do hope that he can find a way to succeed, because everything I've heard about the guy is awesome, and so I really hope that he does find a way to succeed. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Any final thoughts there, KDot, before we move on to the comment mailbag?
Yeah, look, Gandy-Golden, if I look at his size, I look at what he did, he's got the frame that I think he could easily put on, well, not easily, but 15, 20 pounds. If he's playing around that 240, 245 mark, I don't think he'd lose that much speed compared to what it is he has done. And I think that will put him in that. But look, that wide receiver room with the new tight end coach, Juan Castillo, came out of Chicago with Nagy. It's going to be interesting. There are a lot of really, really, really interesting projects at that tight end position. And I think it's going to give or allow the opportunity for some of these guys to really let the freak flag fly and get on that goddamn field. And Gandy-Golden is somebody who I am absolutely pulling for. I will also admit this. When I played Madden franchise mode and I was using to watch the football team, I almost always converted him to tight end.
Okay, so you were ahead of the game. And you must have been playing with Juan Castillo, who you nailed. He is our tight ends coach. Congratulations there. Yeah, you're ahead of the game, KDot. So how do you see this playing out? Or do you just want to sort of say, hey, let's wait and see?
I want to wait and see, but I want, if Antonio, if you're listening, not only do we want you on the pod, legitimately, I am rooting for you really, really hardcore. You're one of my favorite guys that we drafted that year. And I really, really want it to work out. I just think you have, I think when I watched the highlight tape of him at Liberty, and once again, Liberty debate alumni, not too proud of it, but
I figured
there's something there. There's really something there, and it's not somebody I want to give up on. I really want to make it work. I really want it to work, and I really think he can do it. I think he can do it.
Okay. Yeah. And hey, Antonio, if you are in fact listening, we'd love to have you on just because it would be great to get to know you. And then other fans would get to know you too. So it would be an even more fun follow during OTAs, during training camp and stuff like that. I think it would be hella cool. Open invitation, of course, sir. And best of luck to you.
Open invitation for anybody. We'll take it. Anybody.
We'll take anybody.
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 Former player, anybody. Anthony Armstrong, you said you'd interested. I know you're doing real estate in Texas now. I don't know if you listen to the podcast right now. But...
You know what? We're gonna do that after the pod. We're gonna throw out some names we'd love to have after the pod. So why don't we jump over to the comment mailbag? We got 2 different people, but 3 comments total. The first one comes from Alan, a college friend of mine. So shout out Alan. Thanks for watching. Who's going to be better this season? The Jets, or he said the Washington football team. The Jets, because the Washington football team doesn't exist anymore. If we're going to right, moving on. No, but if we were to do the Jets or Washington Commanders, hey, I loved what the Jets did. I think this offseason, specifically in the draft, they got tremendous value out of their picks. I mean, you talk about getting Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson, just in the first round, and Jermaine Johnson slipping, and no one could tell you why. When they talked to insiders, everyone was like, we don't know why this guy slipped. Sometimes someone will say something after someone gets drafted. Like I know Rap Sheet got some heat when Matt Corral got drafted, and then he started getting into, okay, well, this is what some teams had. They had nothing on Jermaine Johnson. So no one really knows what happened there. That being said, for the reasons we're talking about, we also have an easier schedule than the Jets. We don't have to play the Bills twice. You know, little things like that. The Dolphins have been reloaded. I would go Washington Commanders. What about you, KDot? Jets or Commanders?
At their schedule. Ravens loss. Browns probably without Deshaun. Potential win.
Potential.
Bengals tight. Loss. Steelers potential win. Dolphins, they'll probably split. Packers lost, even though Packers don't have anybody to throw the football to. Denver, I think it'd be much improved. I don't see them beating them. New England, let's say split just to give it to them. They lose both times to Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's close. I'm going to go with the Commanders just because of the strength of schedule. But I don't see. I think the Jets are getting better. I like their coach. They put together a great offseason, especially that draft. I don't think the Jets will suck. I don't think they'll be a laughing stock.
No, I don't think so. Well, here's the thing. Also, if you look at their last, what would this be? 6-7 games. They've got the Bears and they host the Bears. Yeah. Okay. They can win that. They go to Minnesota in December. That's Kirk Cousins in December. They could win that. The Bills, no, they're going to lose. But then they host the Lions. They host the Jaguars. They go to Seattle. We don't know what they're going to look like.
That's a win for the Jets.
They could go on a little bit of a run at the end, but it's that middle and beginning that just looks daunting.
I don't know. The Lions play hard, although they probably won't win a lot of games. Shout out to Matt. The Jags, I think, are also going to be feisty.
This is what you're talking about, right? Like you're literally naming the same 2 teams. You're like easy dubs at the very beginning when we were doing the schedule last week for Washington. You're going, oh, the Jags, they're feisty. The Lions, they fight.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
like, so I think that already answers the question.
It'll be close.
It will be close. But I'm going Commanders final answer, but it will be close. And then we have a couple comments from Kalen Meekins. Sorry, apologies for the mispronunciation. Kalen writes, sounds like we picked up a lot of veterans. This is probably in reference to Drew White, Trey Walker. We were talking about the undrafted free agents that were a bit on the older side for Gardner. You know what to expect, but if they can produce at the NFL at an NFL level, this could be a solid formula. I would agree with that. Because also, again, doing that Terry McLaurin research, 23 when we drafted him, people were like, oh, he's a bit old. Well, guess what? No one cares anymore. He's a freak of nature. He's awesome. Love to have him. Here's his second comment. Elon also writes, push come to shove with Samis, we got a fullback in him. That's sort of interesting. I don't know that Scott would want to use a fullback, but when I think about Samis Reyes' blocking ability, it was an interesting thought where I was like, wait a minute, could he? I don't know. He listen, his blocking in the preseason last season, and even in the little bits he did for us, dude, he was dominating fools. There were some moments where he whiffed, but he was dominating fools overall. KDot. He built like an ox.
How many teams use a fullback?
I'm also partial to like the Shanahan. Like, I love it.
My facial hair
I love it.
out of high school was based on Mike Sellers. I'm all about the position. Okay. I love fullback. I love the fullback position. Even what is the San Francisco, Kyle Juszczyk?
Kyle Juszczyk. Yeah.
Love him. Yeah, I'm always a huge fan of the fullback position. A huge fan of hearing Bill Belichick explain the fullback position too over history.
Oh my God.
It's great. Yeah. What, Derek Watt? One of the Watts is a fullback.
One of the Watts. I think it's Derek, yeah.
Yeah. Look, there's a part of me that's always going to be partial to hard-nosed, have the fucking fullback, maybe run a counter tray and just run it up the gut. I don't see that happening in this offense. I just don't see it. I think Robinson will be in the backfield sometimes. I think early on when Robinson in the backfield, the entire defense is just going to play on the goddamn line because they're going to know what's happening. And it's going to take a game or two for Scott Turner to figure out how to disguise it.
Robinson can catch out of the backfield, by the way.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I just don't think they're going to utilize him that way. At least early. I see that being a bit of a, Robinson's in. Everybody here, come on. Let's get up here. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. All
right, we'll see. But anyway, that's going to conclude this week's episode of District Divided, a DC sports podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. I am Amit. That is KDot. We will see you next week. You may have to edit. I'm in Vegas, but we could still potentially do the call. But if we don't see you next week, we would see you the week after and let some more Commanders news accumulate. Until then, enjoy your weekend, and we will see you soon. I feel like I was stumbling on my words a ton today. I just couldn't put it together.
When I started talking about the wide receivers, I got lost in the sauce. I don't know what the fuck I was saying at one point. I started just saying things.
But the thing is, I can't wait to publish this because people are like, Jesus Christ. But it was literally like, I was like, I needed you to keep doing that because I was like, I need to figure out.
Yeah, I was just like, all right, I'm just going to. It felt like a debate. It felt like, all right, I just have time to kill on this clock.
It was the ultimate team effort. Like I was like, I'm gonna take time. You're gonna take time.
Sometimes you gotta talk through it, and you'll regain.
You'll
something.
Get there.
Yeah,
you'll get there. The one thing I felt I was doing well in my head was like, okay, I've got an initial talking point. I've got a point to back it up, and then I'll figure it out from there. And I don't ever think I did figure it out from there. So I thought I did a good 2-step out of the 3, and then the third one was who knows where. I've only got 2 feet.
There's not a lot happening, and we're regurgitating certain aspects of things that we're having. We're just trying to figure out things to talk about, which is kind of cool. It is like, I think this is we are honing our fucking chops right now, right?
This is practice. This is what it's about.
Major practice.
Oh, major practice. And so like, and of course I moved this week, and like, any number of things have been going on. So, all things together, all things considered, I think that speaks to our dedication. I think that speaks to our commitment. And I think it speaks to our ability to make something great. So on that note, who do we want on this podcast? If you could have anyone on this podcast. So we got Antonio Gandy-Golden, obviously. We're gonna have him on. We're gonna speak that into existence. Who else are we gonna have on?
So we're keeping this like Commanders pod. So Commanders. We're gonna Commanders, right?
For now, but then I'm talking to people at the Spirit. I'm trying to get a couple players on. I think that'd be very cool. Similar to the Rose Lavelle, part of my take. It doesn't need to be like all this cursing and stuff, but like, I think it could be really cool to just get to know the players a bit more, and, new fans that are Commanders fans that maybe aren't Spirit fans can, chime in and stuff like that.
So this is the thing, like anybody on the active roster, of course, right? But if like I'm going back and looking at like, I'm partial to those Washington players from like my childhood, the ones that like just some of those teams like the 05 team or the 07 team. There's like guys on those squads that are like really, really, really love to talk to. Oh, also just another Will Compton, who finally with the bust with the boys. Look, Will Compton has been my fucking dude ever since he was here. I've loved this dude. I'm telling everybody about how funny he was. I'm so glad Bust with the Boys has hit big. But I've been
great.
day one with fucking Will Compton. Day one. The same way I feel about Cole Holcomb, who's underratedly funny as shit and has the best goddamn mullet in football.
He has an amazing mullet. Yeah.
So
Cole Holcomb
anybody on the
sweet.
active roster, I'd love to talk to Cole Holcomb.
Yeah.
But if I'm looking at like Mike Sellers, who talked about it in the pod, I stylized my facial hair the way that he did. Like my profile pics for the longest time were Clinton Porter's basically just holding on to Mike.
Yeah.
Because he's just was my guy. Liddell Betts, love that dude. Would love to talk to him.
Dude, I feel like he averaged 5 yards a pop every single time we gave him the ball. Like Portis would get hurt, and then we'd put in Liddell Betts, and every single time we gave him the ball, it was like 5, 6, 7 yards. It was like, this dude's
so
great.
Legit. And I love when they started doing like this two-headed monster sort of thing. But it was hard with Portis because Portis needed his carries, right? In order to like really get where it needed to. And I remember on ESPN NFL 2K5, Chris Berman, Liddell Dickie Betts was always the thing he did, or Michael Wheelbarrow. Mike Wheelbarrow came.
Yeah.
That was fucking dope. So yeah, Mike Sellers, Chris Cooley forever will have a special place where it would be amazing to talk to him.
Logan Paulson's in the media. Would love to chat with him.
Logan Paulson, he does a good job. There's another dude that has a podcast right now, an all-time Washington great. My favorite Washington player of all time has a podcast. If you look at his YouTube numbers, we've actually outdone him.
Who's that?
John Riggins.
Riggo. Take Riggo. We can plug him.
I'm really want us to do a joint pod with Riggins. Like,
that would be awesome. Just to get into the mindset, because his mindset is actually unbelievable. I would love to hear about some of his games that he had, including the Super Bowl, where it's like, look, how did you, and I'm sure it would be so interesting to hear his answers, right? Because the average Joe, it's going to be like, man, that moment must have been so big. And I'm willing to bet for him, it was like, yeah, but I just had to dominate. And that's what I did. Like, it would be super cool. I would also want Gus Farrat just to ask him if he remembers the headbutt, because he did concuss himself on that stupid thing. I want to know, like, was that an in the moment? Has anyone asked him about that? Like, I'm
sure he's gotten some ass. He's had to have had some. Yeah, look, the John Riggins show. Look, he has a lot more subscribers than we do. Of course, John Riggins.
Of course.
Yeah, but like his last show 2 weeks ago, 600 views. Show weeks before that, 470 views.
Okay.
One before that. So he's only hit the 1,000 mark once. I'm just saying it's not out. I know he's still building, but we're building too.
We are. How many,
look,
how many of our videos are over 1,000 now? We have a few.
We do. I'm just saying it feels like it could be a match made in heaven.
Could be. Oh my gosh, would absolutely love that.
But that's the thing, is like, I don't know about you, but to me, my childhood, as far as NBC on what was it, Saturday nights, watching George Michael talk to Kornheiser, Wilbon, Riggo, and sometimes Sonny, I didn't understand how spoiled we were living in this city with the quality of fucking guys that we had to talk about our team. It's fucking impressive. It was so good. It was so good. And I miss that so badly. We don't have that kind of voice anymore. I know that Larry Michael did everything he could do to destroy it and burn it to the ground.
Oh my gosh. He sounded corrupt, dude. Even on, like, you just heard him and you were like, this dude doesn't sound. Anyways, but
the worst. It was like, we knew when George Michael was bringing up Lindsay Zarniak, my girl, Lindsay, and it was like, yo, we are going to have amazing fucking sports content for our team for the next 20 years. And as Zarniak left, George passed away.
Yeah.
And then it just all went to shit. Then the team just got so much more involved with fucking Larry Michael, and it just went to shit. So like, I miss that. I miss the quality or caliber of guy that you actually knew the game, or had enough respect in the journalistic standpoint that has a show like this. Like, that's what I want. I miss that. I miss having those kind of conversations.
No, that makes total sense. Have you been watching Pat Bev on ESPN this week?
I have.
Because that has been electric. I know he has some moments, but he's getting under people's skin in the right way, right? Because then all of a sudden they used to do
the right way.
I think so, because they do a lot of the sensationalist journalism and he's just calling them out on it. Like, that's what I respect about it. Right. Like, even when he got under JJ's skin, I still think JJ was right when he was giving his response, but I think Pat enabled it in such a way that it was actually good content overall. JJ probably hated it.
There's no denying.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's the same way I used to feel when I first got on. Same thing I kind of do on the other podcast. I agitate. Like, that's the thing, is like at the end of the pod,
you know what you're doing. Yeah,
I know what I'm doing. Like, at the end of the pod, when I do the All Sorts of Sports pod with James and those guys,
right,
there were so many episodes afterwards, especially when we were in person. The mics would turn off. They'd look at me. Did you actually believe what you said? I'm like, you're never gonna know. Like, that's so, I don't like. What does it matter? Was it entertaining or not? I get that aspect of it, but I will say the one thing that has, you know what I have loved seeing on ESPN? The fucking babyface turn of JJ Redick from being piece of shit asshole dude.
Everyone loves him.
Everyone loves him. Beloved guys in the media. I don't know how you do that, sir.
But he's also great. So good. Like, yeah, I would love to see more JJ.
I've rewatched Jimmy Butler on his podcast like 2 years ago. I've rewatched an episode like 4 times.
No, JJ's figured it out, because when you saw him at Duke, you're like, this little prick. And then all of a sudden, but you did that with everybody. But he exceptionally, he looked like a child.
Yeah, so
those just draining threes. You just come off that screen and just, yeah, exactly. And you were just like, okay, everyone's gonna hate this guy. And now, like, everyone's like, dude, JJ's that dude. Like, honestly, people are gonna study him. Someone I would love, and also shout out, happy birthday to Trinity Rodman, who turned 20 today, and already an NWSL champion. Already named to the first team, future GOAT of U.S. soccer. That video actually went up a little bit. It's at north of 500 now, because people are starting to pay attention. She is a monster. First team, all NWSL last season, and also just rookie of the year. No big deal. I gotta ask her to come on the pod. I've even got this thing from the Spirit, like drop a. Oh, you can't see that. Everything's blurred. That makes sense.
Out loud person.
Learning on the fly over here.
Yeah,
drop a birthday cake in the comments to help us wish Trinity Robin a happy birthday. Might just ask her to join the pod. See what she says. Because why not? Worst case scenario. Hey, we asked you years ago. Be like, see, it was there.
We were ahead of the curve.
We were there.
We were ahead of the curve. We were ahead of the curve. We were trying to support. We were supporting from the very beginning.
All right. Well, yeah. I gotta bounce KDot, but listen. I can't wait for the next episode where we have even less to talk about. If we find a way,
it's that time.
It is that time. It's
time.
Tough. It's tough right now. But on the note of the Spirit, they have a ton of games going right now. So if you're looking to catch some, and it's like mostly U.S. women's national team players at this point, if you're looking to catch some good soccer, definitely check them out. That goes for all you too.
Trinity Rodman on the pod. I'm just not going to say anything.
Okay, we gotta go.